Welcome to Cinema Bites, your go-to for movie recaps in a flash, big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. The movie starts with a young Englishman, his thoughts occupying his mind as he travels by boat to a remote island in the South Atlantic to work as a meteorologist. While lost in his thoughts, the Captain Axel approaches him, lights a cigarette, and mentions that they are almost there. In September 1914, they finally arrive at the island, but no one welcomes them. The man has been sent to replace another meteorologist stationed on the island, yet there is no sign of anyone. Captain Axel accompanies the young man to search for the previous meteorologist. They come across a lighthouse, knock on the door, but no one answers. The young man knocks again, opens the door, and finds the only other person on the island, Gruner, the current lighthouse keeper, who greets them coldly. When Captain Axel inquires about the previous meteorologist, Gruner states that the man they seek died with a disease. Gruner walks around naked, which unsettles Captain Axel. The young man, named Friend, leaves the lighthouse after Captain Axel bids him farewell. Friend wanders the island, believing his life will mirror that of the previous meteorologist. He must monitor the wind's intensity and direction for 12 months before someone comes to replace him. Returning to the hut to organize his belongings, he discovers the diary of the previous meteorologist, Aldur. Inside, he finds sketches, a picture of the floor mirror, and even a drawing of the lighthouse with strange creatures nearby. The next morning, he notices a peculiar round shape made of shells and stones. He heads to the shore with a telescope to begin his work. At night, while reading, he hears rustling outside the door. Assuming it is Gruner, he ignores it, but the noises grow louder. Suddenly, with scratching and growling, a reptilian-like hand appears under the door. He stomps on it, startling the unknown creature. As more sounds emerge, he hides beneath the wooden floorboards. The creatures attempt to enter the hut but find it empty. When the footsteps cease, he peers through a small hole in the floorboards, locking eyes with one of the creatures. Panicked, he stabs it in the eye with his knife and locks himself in the hiding spot all night. The next day, he goes to Gruner and tries to convince him to let him stay in the lighthouse, but Gruner refuses, determined to fight on his own. Returning to his hut, Friend spends the day fortifying his position and is relieved to find a rifle among the supplies. He feels ready to confront the mysterious monsters. That night, a swarm of creatures emerges from the darkness, approaching the hut with ease. Prepared, he fires at the creatures as they attempt to break in. Ultimately, he resorts to setting a fire, as they are too strong to fend off. The fire drives them away, but burns the hut in the process. He escapes the burning house, and luckily, rain begins before it is completely destroyed. The following day, Friend sees Gruner leaving the lighthouse and cautiously follows him to the rocks. As he prepares to attack Gruner, a blue sea creature intervenes. He aims his gun at it, but Gruner stops him, showing that the creature is harmless. Taking advantage of the moment, Friend offers Gruner provisions in exchange for shelter at the lighthouse. Gruner considers Friend an ally, as the sea creature seems to recognize him as one of them. Together, they return to Gruner's hut to gather supplies. Friend realizes that the previous meteorologist did not die of disease but was killed by the sea creatures. Gruner insists they return to the lighthouse before sunset to avoid an attack. After a long walk, Gruner collapses from exhaustion. The next morning, Friend awakens to find the sea creature licking his hand, attempting to heal his burns. He learns he has been unconscious for 2 days. Gruner finds him and takes stock of their supplies, explaining that the creature, whom he calls Tu, behaves like a loyal dog that will not abandon its master no matter how poorly it is treated. Friend observes Tu, impressed by her presence, sensing she is different from the other creatures. However, Gruner warns him not to trust her completely, believing her calm demeanor masks sinister motives. Gruner shows Friend the rest of the lighthouse, taking him to the very top. Friend wonders why Gruner chose to remain on the island when he had the chance to leave. Gruner replies that he will never return to civilization, as he is now the master of his own fate. Friend, on the other hand, declares he will board the first boat he sees. Gruner wishes him luck. Later that day, Friend reflects on how a few days of isolation have already altered his perspective. While organizing his belongings, he is startled by the creature's presence but watches curiously as she foolishly eats a candle. He tries to explain to her how to use it. Gruner calls him to order him to get the gun. He watches Gruner prepare for the attack. The big man asks him what to do, and he fires the signal gun, announcing the beginning of a long night. On the other hand, when the female creature makes a sound in the sky, a crowd of sea creatures rushes towards them. Gruner starts shooting, but Friend feels that he is very tense, so he stays in his place and backs away comfortably until he faints. Gruner is left alone to fight the horrific swarm of sea monsters. The next day, Gruner is very angry because it turns out that Friend is not needed. He tells him to go get water instead of staying where he is. Friend goes to get water, and when he returns, He hears banging and screaming in Gruner's room. To his surprise, he sees Gruner assaulting the sea creature. He leaves the place immediately. Later that same day, Gruner and Friend eat lunch in awkward silence. Friend is unable to confront him because he feels guilty and uncomfortable at the same time. Gruner breaks the tension by banging on the tables and telling Friend that this is his last chance. At night, Gruner draws the creature's attention as he takes the signal gun. When the monsters appear, Friend is afraid again, which makes Gruner lock him outside on the balcony and leave him to defend himself alone against the monsters, even though he hears the gunfire and Friend's cries for help outside. Gruner sleeps, and with sunrise, Gruner is surprised when he sees Friend alive, covered in blood, and looking at him with a look of surprise. Months pass, and the two men fall into a routine when the creatures attack several nights in a row. This makes them stay awake and watchful. The days become the same, the nights get longer, and there is nothing but nature to preserve their sanity. They are able to coexist with each other, and Friend's daily task is to bring water while Gruner guards their weapon. One day, Friend guesses that the creatures are returning to the lighthouse to retrieve the female creature, but he is still wondering why they allow their kind to be killed and why they do not attack on certain nights. Gruner does not care why the creatures come and plans to exterminate them all. After a while, Friend visits the old dilapidated cottage to retrieve some of his belongings, but he discovers how much his appearance has changed as he looks at himself in the mirror. He shaves his beard, hoping to feel a bit of his old self. On his way back to the lighthouse, he passes by the skeleton of a huge whale and takes a piece of it. There are no attacks that night, which makes him believe that the periods between battles are often worse than the battles themselves. Nevertheless, they take advantage of the opportunity to prepare for the next attack. When Friend wanders around the place, he sees the creature and gets close to it for the first time, touching its cold skin. He begins to admire this strange being and gives it the name Anris, while Gruner uses it for his purposes as his servant and slave. One night, Gruner invites Friend to play chess. While they play, the young man shares his observations and hypotheses about the existence of sea creatures, but Gruner tells him to shut up and play. They hurry up finishing the game. Gruner grabs his gun and points it at Friend because he saw a creature behind his back. It turns out that the sea monsters have actually started the attack. They run to the highest point in the lighthouse as more and more monsters arrive. They fight with guns but start to lose ground because the attack was very sudden. However, they decide to go up to the lighthouse lamp room where the light is lit. Unfortunately, Gruner gets a hard bite on his leg while running up. After locking themselves in this room, they spend the night up there while the creatures try to reach them through the glass barrier. Gruner thinks this is his end. He sings a sad love song until the sun rises and the monsters leave. In the morning, Anris takes care of Gruner's bitten leg and puts her tongue in the wound. They realize they won't be able to endure another war because their supplies, ammunition, and willpower are running out. Later that same day, Friend spots a boat in the distance while walking and immediately runs inside to get the signal gun. Gruner, afraid that no one will save him, stops Friend. As he is about to fire the signal, Anris holds him to the ground. Anris tries to protect Friend, which annoys Gruner and makes him walk away with the signal gun. Friend, feeling frustrated, shouts at Gruner, telling him that he is afraid of being left alone and fighting alone. After a while, Friend finds a way to communicate with Anris by showing her a boat he carved from bone, hoping that she will understand. She then takes the boat to an abandoned rowing place on the shore, far from the lighthouse. At the lighthouse, Friend tells Gruner about the boat, but Gruner says that he knows and informs him that a Portuguese man used it to escape from a sinking ship, but the creatures killed him. He also claims that the ship's cargo contained dynamite, but he assumes that all the dynamite is waterlogged and no longer works. At that time, Friend becomes interested in diving to the site of the sinking ship in a pressure diving suit. However, Gruner doesn't agree and tells Friend that what he's suggesting is a suicide mission. One day, the young man hands over the rowing boat, hoping to make it work. Then he hears a howling sound in the distance and finds Anris enjoying swimming near him. He approaches her comfortably as if he's going to kiss her, without Friend and Anris knowing. Gruner is watching them. At the lighthouse, while Friend is reading Gruner's book, he gives him a diving suit and changes his mind after seeing what they did in the water. He wishes inside that Friend would die in this attempt because of jealousy. The next day, they go to the sunken ship in the boat, and Friend explains that tugging on the rope is their only way to communicate while underwater. He tells Gruner that he will pull on the rope 3 times if he needs air. Then he puts on an old diving suit and searches for the boxes that contain the dynamite. While Gruner is controlling the boat's rope underwater, Friend finds the container and immediately ties them up in order to. Gruner manages to pull them out of the water at that moment. Friend sees a childlike sea creature looking through his suit, which makes him fall. He pulls on the rope and begins to get confused with the gathering of more creatures around him. All Gruner does is watch his rope and is about to let go of Friend, but friend quickly frees himself from the suit and swims up to the boat. Gruner immediately helps him out. When they get back home, they immediately examine the box and discover that only one of the others contains enough dry explosives for them to use later. Winter will be here, and friend and Gruner prepare a plan to lure as many creatures as possible into the lighthouse before they detonate the planted dynamite, hoping to scare them away. But that night, no one attacks. After that, 3 weeks pass, and Gruner's patience runs out as he waits for the big attack. Friend finds Gruner frozen outside, still waiting. Bias says that the creatures are coming. Friend asks him to go inside and deactivate the detonator for a while. Another time, Friend and Gruner are waiting for Anris to catch their lunch, but when Gruner discovers that she brought a starfish instead of a fish, he hits her with the shovel and also blames her for telling her kind about their plan to scare them. The angry man grabs Friend's shirt and tells them that their new plan is to leave the door open to lure them inside and set up an ambush for them that night. Friend leaves the door open while watching him. Gruner takes a high place and prepares to detonate the dynamite. They wait for hours, and it is clear that they will not attack based on Friend's guess. Gruner pulls Anris beside him, making her scream. He assumes that this will attract the creatures and goes to light a lamp. She is attacked by a sea creature at the door in front. He is able to escape from them, but more creatures enter. He quickly runs upstairs and informs Gruner that they are now inside the lighthouse. The creatures attack, but Gruner is unable to detonate the explosives, which makes Friend quickly run to the top of the lighthouse and reconnect the detonator. An explosion occurs, killing many sea creatures. Gruner, who is not satisfied, goes to another group of explosives closer to the lighthouse. This causes him and Friend to fall to the ground, and they lose consciousness. When Friend wakes up the next day, he immediately looks for Gruner and wakes him up. Friend is relieved when Gruner moves and starts singing a song, participating with him this time. At the same time, there is a huge chaos around the lighthouse. Gruner uses his spear to finish off the injured and dying toads on the beach after seeing one of the dead creatures wearing a necklace. Friend believes that this species is more civilized than Gruner imagines. Gruner snatches the necklace and throws it into the sea while he is angry. Later, at night, while they are watching the incoming attack, Friend hears Anris and several other creatures mourning the loss of their kind. Gruner approaches him and explains that he saved Anris and a girl trapped in a net for years, believing that she owes him her life. Anris disappears, but Gruner assures him that she will come back again, crawling back as she always does. Friend seems to regret what he did, but Gruner remains cold and has no remorse towards the deaths of the creatures. The next morning, Friend draws circles with stones in the sand and places the carved bone in the middle, hoping someone will save him. On the other hand, Gruner is still preparing the explosion to continue scaring the monsters and expelling them, but there is no attack yet. The next day, while Gruner is sleeping, Friend cleans up the mess and discovers a picture of Farah for the man with the word love written on the back 3 times. He confesses that the woman in this picture is the same woman in the diary and realizes that Gruner himself is the meteorologist who passed away and that Gruner has a heart and is not completely devoid of human feelings. As a result, Friend erases the counter of days because he understood that everything she forgets, including the main reason for his visit, to work. There is no work to be done, except for them to continue living. That's it. Friend then goes to the shore and carries the carved boat when he sees a sea creature, a child, approaching him suddenly. Behind the child is Anris, who appears more confident and bold than before, and with her strength. Friend notices that they want a truce, but Gruner does not want to. All she wants is for Anris to come back, but she refuses. Anris looks at Friend with suspicion and disappointment and leaves him alone. Friend expels him. After a struggle, he throws him to the ground and stabs him in the leg. The angry Gruner stands up, overpowers him, and tries to kill him with an axe, but Friend calls him by his real name and says that he is not Gruner's killer. Gruner pauses for a moment, throws the axe, and mutters the word love, as if he has regained his former self. He goes outside and looks at the star-filled sky. When Friend locks himself inside, the sea creatures negotiate with Gruner and kill him. After a few months, the boat that is supposed to arrive finally comes to bring a replacement for Friend. The captain mistakenly calls him Gruner when he sees his shocked state, and he doesn't even try to correct him. Gruner left Friend without realizing it, leaving behind a solid legacy that he will now take on. The young man assumes his role, believing that this is the piece the new Gruner was searching for. He stands on the balcony, looking at several boats, while at the same time, Anris runs to the sea and swims freely. This is the end of the movie. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification button so you never miss an updates.